The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball show. Cincinnati Reds fantasy value? Sure enough. We're also going to talk the Angels blowout against the Rockies and the ever so popular ads and drops. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball show.
Play ball!
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball show presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com and Righteous Felon Jerky. I'm your host, Vince Stover, and I'm joined, as I am normally, by the senior Belly Up Fantasy Baseball writer, the one and only Kevin Wilson. Hey, Kev. How you doing?
I'm doing great now, Vince. I've been freed from the, bond of servitude. So I am here, and I am ready to talk some baseball.
All right, so we're going to have a slightly shortened show today because Kevin was working, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine, but we have plenty of things to talk about, so we're going to jump right into our first segment, our Fantasy Burner. Well, we all know that the Cincinnati Reds have been one of the hottest teams in Major League Baseball in the last week and a half or so. And that brought us to the conversation about fantasy baseball because I have been very down on Cincinnati. I've been very much negative and actually had one kind old lady let me know it was not very nice, the things that I was saying about Cincinnati. But they actually have some guys holding some fantasy value at this point this year. And so I figured let's take just a moment, a few minutes here, and give some credit and give some, I guess, fantasy advice to those watching and listening, a little bit about what they can look for in the Cincinnati Reds. Because let's face it, well, I don't know if you would agree with this or not. I've been very bold and blunt to the point of saying the worst thing the Reds can do is give any hope to their fans. It's going to come to a crushing halt, but that's okay. Listen, sold out crowds the last couple nights against Atlanta. Good job. Now, 3 weeks ago, they were chanting sell the team, but nonetheless, that's okay. They're there now. Listen, I don't think the Reds are going to last. I can point to their pitching and explain why, but we're talking fantasy baseball, and I think there is some fantasy value for the Reds. So when we look at the Reds right now, who are some of the guys that you're saying, man, these guys hold legit fantasy value at this point in the season?
Well, it's amazing how we have come from, if you remember a couple weeks ago when Ellie's name first popped, and I was like, well, I'm not adding somebody that's not even on a major league roster. And you said, well, you're not adding Reds, period.
Right.
And then we talked about it a little bit last week. And then I wrote an entire article surrounding the Cincinnati Reds. And here we are now on a fantasy baseball show talking about them. So, you got to give your hats off to them, to the Reds. They've got some things going on, and it goes beyond just Ellie, whom I am glad to say that I did add to my team. And so, it's been crazy. He hit a home run like his second game. He's hit for the cycle already. So, but as you mentioned, he's not the only one. And so if you get over to your waiver wire and you happen to see the name Matt McLain sitting there, and it may not, he's probably not available in a lot of leagues, but he's right around, it's not even 30% owned in ESPN leagues. And so you have a 70% chance if you're in an ESPN league. And this is the guy who has kept Ellie Dela Cruz off shortstop, as I've mentioned before. And so anybody that can do that, he's not as good, obviously, but he's good enough to hold his own. So of all the Cincinnati players, he's the one that I would search for first. And if he's there, go ahead and get him on your team.
So Matt McLain's a guy, I don't know. He's available probably in more leagues than some of these other guys. I don't have as much belief in him. He's had good games. I mean, his game against Atlanta, his last game against Atlanta was phenomenal. He's had some good games, but to me, he's not been consistent. He's floating in that great game, then 0, and then great game, and then 0-0, then another great game. That kind of a deal there. He's given you some value. There's no doubt about that. We've talked about Spencer Steer multiple times. I think he still holds value. I think he's solid. TJ Fradle's a guy who's available in a lot of leagues right now. He's only
6.8%, Vince.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who, if you look at it, he got 11 fantasy points against Colorado, 5 fantasy points against Atlanta, then 4 today.
Yeah.
So for 6.8% owned, he's hitting 314 on the season, has 11 steals.
Yeah.
So if you're in a Cats league looking for stolen bases, there's your man right there.
Yeah, I like him. India, of course, has been decent this year again. Ellie De La Cruz, no doubt, he needs to be on rosters right now, and he is in our league. You've got him in our league. The other guy that I like is Will Benson, and he's not playing as regularly as these other guys.
Yes.
But he's an outfielder, only 0.8% owned. He did have a bad game today, but 6 points, 2 points, 8 points, 4 points, 10 points. He's been putting up when he plays. He's playing it looks like about 3 out of every 4 days right now. And he's a guy that, again, if you're looking for an outfielder, I think I would go Fradle first. But Will Benson's the guy that I think holds some value in fantasy leagues right now. If you're looking for an outfielder, I think you can find value for him, and he's probably available in your league.
Yeah, no matter what size league you're in.
Yeah.
0.8% owned, he's available. Whether it's Yahoo, whatever else, Sleeper, whatever else, he is available. So if you need an outfielder, as you mentioned, he's a guy that you certainly can look into.
So I've got 5 Reds batters that I would be okay with having on my roster. But when you flip the page to pitcher, this is why I don't have any belief that Cincinnati can maintain. I've got 1 pitcher currently that I'd be willing to have on my roster. Hunter Green, I would still have on my roster. He's injured right now, so I'm not counting him. But Andrew Abbott's the guy. Andrew Abbott's been
Andrew Abbott is the guy. But if you don't have him on your team already, it's not going to happen for the most part.
41.9%.
41 point, yeah. That usually means about 80% owned in Yahoo leagues, somewhere in that area. So so if you need a pitcher, Abbott is a guy in your ESPN league. Go ahead and pick him up. Not in our league, but go ahead and get him.
Listen, he's pitched from 4 games. He's 3-0, 22 strikeouts, 1.14 ERA. He's played against Milwaukee, St. Louis, Houston, and Colorado. 18 is the lowest amount of points he's scored in our league. He's putting up points in every start that he's been. And like I said, I'm a believer still in Green. I think Hunter Green holds all kinds of value, especially in categories leagues, by the way. Hunter Green's a great guy in categories leagues. But even Hunter Green being their best pitcher is almost at a 4 ERA. So, I mean, this pitching staff is not good enough to maintain.
Well, they pitch in, where they pitch in.
True.
Is the launching pad that's second to Colorado.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, the guy that I wrote about in my article, Ben Lively, he just went on the IL, and he's got a 4.11 ERA and 103 fantasy points. So he's a guy you might want to look at once he does get back. There's no need to add him at this point in time. But but unfortunately, I put pen to paper, and then he went on the IL like 2 days later. So.
Kevin Curse.
The Kevin Curse. But there is one other guy who is at just 1.1% owned who started off terrible. We're talking terribly. And that's Brandon Williamson. And because what he's done over the past, he'll give you 5 innings. That's about all. But 11, 17 points. So if you're in a league that's a big league, 1.1% owned, you might want to wait until after tomorrow because he pitches in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So see how he does there. I'm not recommending you pick him up at all, but keep an eye on him. If he pitches well against Baltimore in Baltimore, maybe we got something going on.
Maybe something going on. Cincinnati Reds have been hot. We'll talk about them more in just a moment. But that is our fantasy burner segment. Let's get to our second segment of the night, the call to the pin. We do want to say hello to all our live viewers watching us on the Sports Stove YouTube page and the Belly Up Fantasy Facebook page. And we welcome in now our second segment of the show, Call to the Pin, typically our guest segment. Today it's just me and Kevin, but it's presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. If you want the purest jerky of the game, you got to go straight to the source. Righteous Felon has partnered with the best natural black Angus beef producers in the land to lock up supply and guarantee the best tasting, the best textured, and the freshest beef jerky on the market. Visit righteousfelon.com. Use promo code BELLYUP for 15%.
Yep, I got to mention right here, Vince, that I went ahead and I got some.
Yeah.
Some lemon pepper.
Oh, yeah.
Jerky and some taco flavored jerky that just came yesterday. So I am wading deep into the waters of the Righteous Felon Jerky family. So
you won't regret it, Kev. You won't regret it. It's
all
good
right.
stuff. All right, now let's continue on the Reds first of all. Cincinnati Reds, phenomenal a couple weeks, phenomenal week and a half, whatever it was. Big win streak. They finally faced up against Atlanta. They played really well. Well, let me put it this way: it was competitive. I don't know if I'd say they played really well. The offense did.
The offense
scored a whole lot of runs against Atlanta.
Absolutely.
But they faced an opponent that ultimately was better than them.
I mean, won 11 of their own. Was it 11 or 10 or 11 straight going into that series? Atlanta.
11. It wasn't 11 straight, 11. But it was close. Yeah.
Okay, and they beat them Friday night. So
yeah,
they're standing toe to toe.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about Cincinnati? Are you a believer? I mean, I'm obviously not. Are you a believer?
Right. I'm coming around.
Okay.
I was pretty much, in disbelief for a long time.
Sure.
But it's nice to see Cincinnati, who is the oldest active major league team, to finally have something positive going on with them. So, this is the big red machine and all that stuff. So I would you could almost beat me, senseless before I'd put a red jersey on. But if they can keep, because everybody else in that division has fallen down.
Right.
Pittsburgh's gone sliding. Cardinals, we don't know what in the heck's going on with them. And so if they can fire up a little bit and put some competitive baseball in there, I think that's a good thing.
All right, let's play some rapid fire. I'm going to give you two teams. You got to tell me if you had to bet a month's pay on this team to make the playoffs, which team would you pick? All right, so Cincinnati or Cleveland?
Ooh. I'm going to go with Cincinnati.
Okay.
I am not in on Cleveland.
Okay.
I'm just not in on them.
All right, Cincinnati or the Angels?
The Angels, just as soon as I think I'm getting ready to step on board their express train, they they turn things where, except for yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm going to go with the Angels.
Okay.
I think that they've done enough things for me to believe that they're in this race to the end.
Okay. Let me give you three more: Cincinnati or Miami?
I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I like Miami better, but they're in that much tougher division.
Okay.
They've got Philadelphia is doing some things. Atlanta, of course. New York, we can cancel Christmas on them. But so there's three teams right there. And in Philadelphia, I still expect them to and they already have. They're 7-3 in their last 10. But so I'm a bigger believer that Cincinnati has a better opportunity.
All right, two more: Cincinnati or San Fran?
Yeah. Once again, I'd rather jump off a building than support San Francisco in any way, shape, or form. But you got to like what they've got going on over there.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go with the Giants on this.
Yeah, and I think the Giants will make some moves here too, and only get better. I don't think Cincinnati.
I do too. They do too. They've got the front office. They've got, the farm system. All the Cincinnati farm players, they're up already.
They're up. Yeah.
So what are they going to deal?
Right. One more: Cincinnati or Milwaukee?
Milwaukee. they've got the talent, and so Milwaukee should be walking away with this thing
Yes.
right now. And so at some point they're going to get it together, and they're going to probably winning that division by, I'm going to say, 5 games.
Okay, I hope so, man. There's been zero consistency from Milwaukee, and that's been the big problem. They won today in extra innings in Cleveland. It was not pretty. They were ahead in every single game against Cleveland and blew leads. I mean, it was just nuts. But nonetheless, I agree. I think Milwaukee's a deeper team, a more complete team, but they have to find consistency. It's just ridiculous.
If Burn can, finally do something positive, that would be awesome.
That would be nice, yeah. Los Angeles, the Angels, went to Colorado and put up 25 runs in one game. 125 to
13
1.
runs, I believe it was, in one inning.
My goodness. First of all, how embarrassing for Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado, they're last in their division, so embarrassment is reigning throughout the land on them anyway. And from everything, that's a great ballpark they have over there. They've got their fan support. They should be much better than they are. I think that's been the case for a long time.
Yeah.
But they're just not. And so hopefully you had Brandon Drury on your team yesterday because he had 13 fantasy points himself. So if he did that, and you're in good shape. So, but yeah, Colorado, they maybe they should just disband and bring up their AAA team. I believe it's in Colorado Springs.
Trade everybody.
And just start over.
Yeah. 13 runs given up in the third inning, 8 in the fourth. I mean, 25 to 1. That's just on 28 hits, by the way. 25 runs on 28
hits. And I've never been to a game like that. I've been to a Padres game, where the Giants put 10 runs on them, and I was in the parking lot before the inning was over. But I have never.
They should have a 20-run rule or something. I mean, there should be something.
Yeah. Just, what is it? Little League or whatever that is. That if you're up by 10 at the end of the fifth inning.
Yeah.
We call it. And we've seen too many of these position players pitching. I think this season probably more than I could ever remember.
Yeah.
So come on.
And by the way, Florida put up 24 on LSU today to force Game 3 of the College World Series. So apparently,
I didn't think Florida was going away either. So
I didn't think they'd put up 24.
No, 24. That's football right there. I don't know if the Gators scored 24 points again.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Team.
Pretty crazy everything's going on right now. Arizona 2.5 up in the West over the Dodgers and the Giants. Cincinnati's a half a game up on Milwaukee. Atlanta 6 games up on Miami. Texas 6 games up on Houston and LA. Minnesota 2 games up on Cleveland. Tampa 4.5 up on Baltimore. The MLB is plenty of exciting so far this year, and plenty of things to talk about in the days to come. But it's time for us to get to segment number 3, rolling right into it. Our ads and drops. Here's our fantasy focus. Our fantasy focus segment is presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com, your one-stop shop for all things fantasy sports, NFL, NHL, NBA, and of course, Major League Baseball. It's the place where you can find all of Kevin Wilson's articles as well. He just dropped another article today, I think, wasn't it? Your drops article?
Yeah, it was about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, you gave us about 6 or 7 drops. I think I read it earlier today.
And I promise I will not bring those drops to the table here.
Okay.
So you'll still need to read that article.
I've got one of your drops on my drop list tonight, as I saw on your article, but we'll talk about that as we get to it. Let's start with the additions, though. We've already covered the Reds and what's going on in Cincinnati. But, Kevin, who should we add this week?
Okay, so I'm going to go pitcher heavy on the ads right now. And I'm going to start off. We talked about your Brewers a moment ago, And this is a guy that I believe you and I have both talked about, and that's Julio Teheran.
Yeah.
If I pronounced that correctly, at 21% owned. And he's facing the Mets on Tuesday. We just talked about how the Mets are a free fall. And so he's been positive points every single game.
Yeah.
And what more could you possibly ask for than, a pitcher that you're streaming? And so Julio Teheran is a guy that I would certainly look to add, given that he's facing the Mets right now.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the back end of that rotation has been the most consistent. Wade Miley, who's back from injury.
Wade Miley is a guy that we could add as well.
Julio Teheran, who you just mentioned, has been around now for this will be his third or fourth start in Milwaukee. And then Colin Ray is another one. He's starting tomorrow against the Mets. I actually just added him in one of my leagues too. That back end of the Brewers rotation has been giving some decent fantasy value. But you're right. I like that pickup, especially against the Mets, who've been struggling as of late too. I like that a lot. I'm going to go to New York. New York outfielder Billy McKinney, only owned in 1.3% of leagues.
And his like 4 home runs or so.
Yeah. His last 7 games, he's got 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. He didn't have a great game today against Texas, but before that, 5 points, 2 points, 2 points, 7 points, 7 points. He's been putting up consistent points. And with the Aaron Judge injury, it just secures him more playing time as well. So he should be in the lineup regularly. And again, he's only owned in 1.3% of leagues. So he's available. If you need an outfielder, I think Billy McKinney's a guy that I feel really comfortable with adding to my team right now.
Right. And I would feel more comfortable if the Yankees had a better offense. But
Sure.
In any case, yeah, that would be a quality add.
Who else you got?
All right. So I'm going to return to the Texas Rangers right here. And I'm going to talk about Martin Perez. And he's at 26% owned. And he's facing the Detroit Tigers on Tuesday. And so that should be a smorgasbord of points going on right there. And the only time he got lit up by Tampa, but who doesn't? So, but since then, Toronto, 2 runs on 3 hits in 6 innings. Then at Chicago, White Sox, 7 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits. And so 21 fantasy points.
Yeah.
So if you need pitching and at 26% in ESPN leagues, he's reasonably available. So these are, we talk about how you need to look at who guys are playing.
Yeah.
Detroit doesn't get much softer than that.
Yeah, and Perez is a guy that I've made as a streamer here as of late. I'm looking at his matchups, of course. He started off the season really well. He had a little bit of a dip there for a little bit, but he seems to be coming back around. And for me, it's a matchup thing, and I think Perez is a great streamer right now.
Absolutely. And so you, as soon as we finish here, you're going to want to get over there and add him before somebody realizes, hey, he's playing the Tigers.
I love it. I'm going to go another outfielder, 2.9% owned for the Chicago Cubs, Mike Tauchman. He's had a solid last week as well, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and a stolen base, putting up positive points. Again, not a great game today, but leading up to today, putting up positive points every game's back all the way to the 15th of the month. And then before that, several games as well. So Tauchman is playing regular baseball. The Cubs have been on a pretty hot streak as of late as well. Not as good as Cincinnati and San Francisco, but they've been on a pretty decent.
They've been playing well. Not so much today, but pretty well.
But I mean, if you're going to got a guy that's going to be playing pretty much every day, he's played every game, in every game, at least back to the 8th of May. So he's out there and he's getting points, getting some stolen bases. I think he's solid in categories leagues and point leagues. Honestly, Tauchman, I think, is a good pickup.
All right, so I'm going to stay with the pitchers, and this guy is more available than the ones I just mentioned, but the matchup is just as solid, if not even better. Talking about Logan Allen from the Cleveland Guardians, who's at 12.2% owned. And who does he face on Wednesday? That would be the worst team in baseball, the Kansas City Royals. So, he has a 3.68 ERA. That's pretty solid. And so want to ignore what he did against San Diego. what he did against Houston, no problems with that at all. But against Oakland and then Kansas City, how much better a landing can you have than those two teams? No runs on 2 hits. So if the other 2 guys that I mentioned a moment ago are not available, then go on down to the bargain, part of the grocery store and pick up Logan Allen, because he's got the matchup you've got to salivate over.
Yeah. Yeah, I've streamed Logan in another league, that league where I didn't draft a pitcher till the 14th round. I've streamed him in that league and has helped me in certain weeks for sure. I like that pickup. Of course, the matchup's phenomenal. I'm going to go pitcher as well, Kevin, and I'm going to go to Detroit. 1.8% owned, Reese Olson. He's only started 5 games so far this season, and in those 5 outings, only one of those was not good, and that was against Atlanta. He only got 3.1 innings, 6 earned runs in that outing. But other than that, he's been solid. Against the White Sox, 5 innings, 6 strikeouts. Against Philadelphia, 5 innings, 3 strikeouts. Against Kansas City, 6 innings, 8 strikeouts. And against Minnesota, 5.1 innings and 9 strikeouts, his highest point total of the year. His next start is Thursday against the Rangers, which would typically, I would say, you probably want to stay away from that matchup, considering how hot the offense has been for Texas. But Reese Olson is a guy who's going to be available. He's going to be available after his start on Thursday. And he's a guy worth keeping an eye on, because I actually think Reese Olson's a guy that's worth keeping around on the bottom of your fantasy roster. He's producing enough right now to be worth it. And again, only 5 starts, so that's all we have to go off of. But this kid's been solid, and I think it's worth paying attention to and adding to your team, especially if you're needy for pitchers.
All right, so real quick, I'm going to add this guy in. 1.7% owned. We talked about the Angels a moment ago. Jaime Barrera. Maybe for somebody like I'm trying to Jaime. If I pronounced it wrong, I'm sorry. But he was a guy that was a reliever. He's been a reliever for the Angels, but they're putting him in the starting rotation. And Wednesday matchup, Chicago White Sox at home. So there's another pitcher that's available. He's available everywhere.
Yeah.
Except for maybe guys that have like 30 teams or whatever it is. But but other than that, he's available. So Jaime Barrera, remember him. And before Wednesday, go ahead, add him.
All right. Let's get to our drops now. And again, you can go to bellyupfantasysports.com and see several options for dropping. And Kevin gives you the reasons behind those as well. But he says he's going to stay away from those guys. So who else we got to drop?
Yeah, I'm not going to bring those up because I want you to read the article. So
okay. Who else we got to drop this week?
Okay, so I talked about a couple of Yankees on my drop list, but there's a third one that I'm going to go ahead and throw out there that's 54.5% owned, and that's Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
He has absolutely no reason to be on 54.5% owned. And so you look at this, all right, this is what he's done. 0 for 4, -2. 0 for 3, -2. 0 for 4, -1. He actually had a hit, no point. Then he had a hit today. He had 2 points. Yay for him. All right. He's hitting 187 on the season. It's a complete, utter disaster. He's worth nothing other than, well, I guess he's outfield eligible, but still, come on. He's got to go.
Yeah, he's on my list too, Kevin. He has not scored until today. He had not scored positive points since May 16th. In the last week, he's been batting .048 on the season. .187.
You figure that you and I could get up at the plate and do that.
I
almost by accident.
So. Yeah, I mean, my goodness. And he missed a little bit of time with injury also, but my soul, you can't have this. Stanton's a name. People have him because he's a name.
Right.
He should not be on a roster.
It's an ongoing situation for the last couple of years. And no, please, I'll even hold my breath for a moment if you need to go on there and drop him this moment. Don't wait another second.
I dropped him.
There has to be somebody available, no matter what size league you're in.
I dropped him last Sunday. in our league a week ago is when I dropped him. And I probably should have done it before that. but nonetheless, I agree with you. I had Stanton on my list. I'm going to have another guy that's in that same category, 58.4% owned. And the last week, he had 16 at-bats, 6 strikeouts, 3 hits total, 1 RBI, and he's been batting .188 in the last week. And he's only played 1 out of the last 4 games. It's first baseman DH Jose Abreu. We've talked about him before. I'm at the point, and listen, Kevin, you know this. I'm a very patient guy. When it comes to my fantasy roster,
much more
they're a big name. I like to give them a chance to do what they know how to do. I no longer can I wait on Jose Abreu to figure it
out. And not this past week, but the week before that, I went ahead and I said, okay, he's playing. I added him. I think he got me like 12 points in one game. I'm like, woohoo. The next day, -4, and he has not recovered since then. So he had to go, and I'm not looking his way. Doesn't matter what he does. He's not coming anywhere near Team Wilson.
Yeah, like you said, you dropped him last Friday, a week ago Friday, June the 16th.
Yeah, that was one day too late, as it turned out.
He scored 7 today against the Dodgers, by the way, but I'm done.
I've
officially written Jose Abreu off. He's no longer allowed on my team.
No, he's not allowed to. And the bad part about it is he plays in the same state that I'm in. Otherwise, I would say he can't come into Texas either.
Who else do you have that we need to drop?
All right, so the other guy that I have is at 40.9% owned, and he plays shortstop for the Chicago White Sox. I'm talking about Tim Anderson. And so this guy has completely pummeled it, from when he was an all-star not too long ago, and maybe the beginning of the end for him was when he compared himself to Jackie Robinson. But when I'm looking at, this past week, you know how many hits he has? That would be 0. All these other players that we talk about actually had maybe, at least 1 hit.
Yeah.
He has none. And so 241, he has no home runs on the season, 11 RBIs, 62 fantasy points. And except for 8 steals, there is absolutely nothing to call home. And his mom is probably saying, son, I don't know you either. So
gracious. Ouch.
Ouch. That's right. So please, the 40.9% owned.
Yeah.
I don't understand this at all. Shortstop is a deep position in fantasy baseball. There's no need for him to be on your team.
I'm going to give you a counter here. Mark it down. It's June 25th. We're at about the 33-minute mark of the program.
Okay.
Tim Anderson will end the year as a fantasy relevant player, but it's because he's going to get traded. And so my suggestion to people is this: wait as long as you can, but as the trade deadline approaches, keep your ears out. And as soon as Tim Anderson gets moved, pick him up. I think Tim Anderson's going to go. I think he's going to go to the Dodgers.
I've heard that.
But if he doesn't, wherever he goes, I think he'll immediately become relevant again. I think he's just in a bad mental space. I think Chicago is just an utter dumpster fire. And I think Tim Anderson gets moved, and I think that he immediately produces when he gets moved, gives him that rejuvenation, so to say. So here it is. Mark it down. June 25th, about the 33-minute mark. Now we're heading on the 34-minute mark on the show. You add in some commercials on the audio version. It might be a little bit later. But Tim Anderson will end the year fantasy relevant. And keep an eye on them. As soon as they're ready to move them, add them to your team, and thank me later.
That's right. So you don't have to worry about stepping in front of me in the checkout aisle, because I will not be picking them up.
Okay. And now that's at the 34-minute mark there. Kevin said no. So there you go. Now we've got something to keep track of. Okay. So Tim Anderson, you're right. Right now it does not belong on a roster. I agree 100% with you. Let me give you one pitcher. You've got him in your article. New York Yankees, Domingo Germán, 15.7% owned. His last 2 outings against Boston. He had 2 innings pitched, 7 earned runs, 31.50 ERA. And then against Seattle, 3.1 innings pitched, 8 earned runs, 21.60 ERA, -15 against Boston, -10 against Seattle. Listen, the Yankees rotation is not good. Now, listen, Rodon is rehabbing, and maybe when he gets back, he's decent. We'll have to wait and see on that. And maybe we'll talk about him next week. But Yermán can't be on your team. He's just not good.
No,
and he's going to kill you.
And then, he pitched well the game before that against Boston. And I bet a lot of people said, okay, I'll forgive you for the suspension, and added him to their team only to get road graded.
Yeah,
like nobody's business.
Yep. Yes, I agree. You got anybody else for us?
Just one guy, and
Okay.
And he's a guy who was real fantasy relevant not too long ago. He plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we could probably talk about a whole bunch of players on their team. But Jack Suwinski.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. We're talking about players that have no hits. Well, he has no hit this week. 0 for 4, 0 for 2, 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, 0 for 2, 0 for 2.
Yikes.
That is a definite yikes scenario. And so outfielders, doesn't matter what side of the league you're in, there's a player out there who has at least a hit that you can pick up. And I liked him earlier in the season, but that train has stopped. So he needs to get out at the station here.
All right, there it is. Yeah, I'm probably off on all Pittsburgh Pirates at this point in the season as well. They've really hit that nasty stretch, and yeah, I think Pittsburgh is what we thought Cincinnati would be. So we'll wait and see if Cincinnati meets up with them or not. Down
hopefully
the road.
Cincinnati doesn't get hit by the meteor,
right?
That the Pirates have, and
so
Pirates are a team that's definitely star-crossed, and from the We Are family back in the day when they won the World Series, but it's just not happening.
Yeah,
and they got a great ballpark as well, but there's no other reason to see them play except for the ballpark.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I'll say this. I said it on Wednesday. I'll say it here too, though. I think Cincinnati ends the year third place in the division. I think Chicago actually overtakes them, and I think there's a chance they could fall to fourth, but I think they've shown enough life where I think they'll hang on to third. I think it goes Milwaukee, Chicago, and then Cincinnati. And I think St. Louis overtakes Pittsburgh at some point. I just can't imagine St. Louis is going to stay as horrible as they've been. But who knows? That whole
Cincinnati finishes third. Do you have to say that's a productive season?
Yes. I also would have to check in on all the current Reds fans who are over the moon how great this team is. World Series champs. I mean, they're the next coming of the Big Red Machine.
Slow that roll just a bit.
I'll tell you, sold out crowds. Again, it's like 3 weeks ago they were saying sell the team.
They had over 43,000 or something like that.
Standing room
in that
only.
stadium against Atlanta. You have to.
Let me ask you this though: if they were playing Oakland, would it have been that crowd?
Of course not.
No, Atlanta was in town. That helps out a lot. You get to go see Ronald Acuna play. That helps.
Right.
Yeah,
but
they say the crowd was amped and active and great. I just wonder how long. That's not going to last.
No, that kind of electricity is not going to last. You just kind of hope that they're young. Don't turn into a pumpkin. All right.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. That's good. BellyUpFantasySports.com. Again, you get all of Kevin's articles there, as well as other articles, baseball, hockey, basketball, football. Lots of football stuff will be coming out over the summer, of course, with the NFL season beginning to ramp up late August in preseason. But of course, Kevin's bringing the baseball heat year round, and he's got you going all summer long there as well. Then you can find my Major League Baseball power rankings on BellyUpSports.com, and they post every Sunday and are out currently as well. You can find Kevin on Twitter.
I saw you didn't kick the Dodgers down quite as far as I thought you would.
Yeah, I was nice to the Dodgers, wasn't I?
Yeah. You were probably nicer to them than I would have been.
Yeah, it's hard. I'll tell you what, the bottom part of the top 10, the top part of, just outside basically about 7 down through about 12. is kind of muddled right now and hard to figure out. I didn't know what to do with Cincinnati. I bumped them up a little bit, but even them, I'm just not real sure about right now. San Francisco has been really good, so they got bumped way up this week. But they've been, I don't know. I guess I just trust them
deservedly so.
more. Yeah,
deservedly so. And like I said, I'd pretty much rather put my head into a oven that's on turned on than say anything positive about the Giants. But they're they're doing it. So
yeah,
hats off to them.
He's Kevin Wilson. You find him on Twitter at Kevin62 WILSEA. I'm Vince Stover. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SportsStove. The plan is to be back here live on Sunday night, 8:00 again for Fantasy
And
Baseball.
I will be here on schedule.
And hopefully we'll have another guest lined up as well. You can tune in Wednesday night. My dad will join me. We might be a little late actually on Wednesday night, but we'll be talking everything going on in the sports world. And you can find that same place, Sports Stove, YouTube, or the audio version, wherever you get your podcast. And then the plan is, Kevin, for this weekend to have a Sports Stove local hour as well. I'll be joined by my summer co-host, Ryan Jackson, EKU defensive lineman. And I think the plan is we're going to go through and preview the football schedule for the upcoming football season as well, and let people get to know Ryan a little bit. He's going to be doing shows with me all summer long, and maybe even after the summer, but for sure all summer long. So looking forward to that too. Lots of content.
So when you review that schedule, if they ever wind up in Texas, you'll have to let me know.
I'm trying to think if they have a Texas game. They've played like Tarleton State.
Didn't they have one last year?
They played Tarleton State and somebody else.
Did they do that at home against Tarleton State? I don't remember either.
Yeah, I don't remember. But anyways, I'm sure they get to Texas at some point for sure. Okay, that's it for today. I was going to say slightly shortened show, not a whole lot shortened, but slightly shortened show tonight. But we will be back live.
But you got some tidbits right here, so
that's right. Best fantasy advice you're going to find is right here on the Sports.
That's right, and no less an expert than your dad said so.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up, Kevin. Dad lost this week.
That's right.
For the first time all season.
We've been praising him to the hills, and so
no more. He's utter garbage. Doesn't know how to do fantasy baseball. He lost to Nick Marconis, 418 to 311.
That's a double stain right there.
Yeah, he's a fraud. My dad's a fraud. Doesn't know what he's doing. He's now 11-1 on the season. I moved to 6-6. Kevin, by the way, dominated. Sadly, I don't think it counts for a whole lot, but we'll give him a win, 10-2.
I was contemplating, benching my whole team over the weekend because
give him some rest, right?
Yeah,
give him some rest. In our league right now, Kevin moves to 10-2. Dan D'Amico falls this week to Chase Thorne. So Chase goes to 6-6. Marconis goes to 5-7, while Dad drops to 11-1. Our fearless leader, Mike Brown, jumps up to 5-7 with the defeat of a Cincinnati heavy team. And then I take down Drew Childs this week to go to 6-6 as well. So we got a log jam at that third and fourth place right now.
Yeah. So
you and Dad pretty much have sealed your playoff spot, but the rest of us are fighting it out right below you.
So, it looks oddly similar to a year ago when you were, back there in the muddle, and the next thing you know, bam.
Nothing like
here we go.
The big comeback to finish second, but that's okay. It's fun. I like this league. It's a good time. I'm looking forward to continue with it. And but it's nice to be able to finally call Dad out for being a fraud.
That's right. So make sure that you mention that as well on Wednesday. So
we'll bring it up. He loses by more than 100 points this week. So
there's no defense there. So.
Tough going for him. I'm looking real quick. Yeah, that's his problem. He's got too many reds
last week when I was playing him.
Oh, he maxed out. That's part of it. He maxed out his pitchers this week. My goodness. He missed out on 21 points.
That's a triple thing going on right there.
From Kirby. My goodness. All right, he's a fraud. We know it now. That's good to know. Okay. Thanks for tuning in to the program tonight. We'll be back next week. I hope that you tune in there as well. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you like, subscribe, share, review, anything else you can think of that's positive.
That's right.
do that for us as well. He's Kevin Wilson. I'm Vince Stover. Until next time, we'll see you around the sports stove.